Good morning again, and if everyone would take their seats, please. I would like to get us started. We have a lot of business to cover this morning, and so we need to get to it right away. First thing I'd like to do is thank USI Insurance Services for the wonderful coffee and delicious sweet treats. My name is Liz Argott, and I am a director on the Federation Board of Directors, and I am the chairperson of the Health and Safety Committee. My first task was to bring up our emergency planning process that really needed to be perked up, and as you can see, it takes a village to get it all together. Elsa gave us a nice little sweet tap on the shoulder last week with the promise of what could come, but thankfully stayed out of our backyard. But we may not be so lucky as other storms or issues come our way. And hurricane season is not on its way, it's here. And we need to be prepared. And the first thing I would like to remind everybody, as you know, each and every individual is responsible for preparing for their own before, during, and after phase of any major storm. This morning, we will hear about the county information, county services, Sun City Center service organizations, and some of those pieces that are germane to Kings Point only. Little technical difficulty, and it's my fault. At any rate, let me go ahead and tell you what the program will be this morning. We are going to introduce the presenters, and they have a sequence of events, and let me assure you that they have a limit on the amount of time they can stand up here. 3 minutes. Whoever's, and he's the master. In deference to time, we are not going to take any questions from the floor. There's almost 400 of you in here, and sometimes we have very personal needs to be responded to. All of the vendors will be here after the presentation so that you can talk with them, ask questions, and I think many of them have little tchotchke treasures for you to take along with you. So jot down your questions if you would please, and save them for when the end of the presentation, when you can get direct answers from the individual presenters. With that, I'm going to introduce Mike Bardell, who will be making some statements about the radios that we have here in Sun City Center, and then he will be introducing the presenters after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. It's really good to see. Oh my God, malfunction already this early in the morning.
I'm not taking the blame for that.
That's right, we will overcome. It's really nice to see everybody this morning. I'm glad we can get back out and do this stuff. We were out of touch for way too long. I think you'll find this to be a lot of information packed into a very short period of time. We are compressing it because we want to make sure we get you out. We want to make sure you have plenty of time for happy hour and have some lunch before you go to happy hour. But what I'd like to do is I'd like you to just think a minute about hurricane season and what this means. Gigolo is coming. Hurricane Gigolo. In the Caribbean, destined for the Florida packing winds of 115 miles an hour. The cone is projected landfall between Naples and Weeki Wachee. It is moving at 11 miles per hour. Coastal evacuation is in effect. 48 hours prior to the storm, all exit routes going north and east are congested and gridlocked. Many accidents, and some simply ran out of gas trying to get out. Currently, Gigolo made landfall early this morning in Bonita Springs. Tides are rising and the storm surge will be 3 to 5 feet above normal. Tropical force winds can be expected 45 miles from the center. The track is northeast at 11 miles an hour. Sun City Center has received winds of 105 miles an hour and rain of up to 2 inches an hour for the last several hours. All power is lost and all self-service, cell phones, and landlines are inoperable. Hundreds of trees are reported down. Several buildings have been damaged by items left outside. They became projectiles in the storm. Now that's an idea of what can happen. That is not a real scenario. That was one that was conjured up in my mind at 5 o'clock this morning. But it was done to make a point to you. It can get serious very quickly. If you don't have electricity, there are many considerations you're going to have to think about. Facebook, you know, that's not going to be operable. And I think for half of this community, that's going to be a depression mode. But there are a lot of things that we're going to have to do without. And you're going to have to, because we're going to be on our own for 3 to 7 days. In Sun City, several years ago, we decided to make our own radio network. So we have emergency radios, which come in a packet like this. Each individual agency bought their own, and they don't get to keep them. I keep them, and they're sitting under my desk, and the emergency squad distributes them before the event, and so that they will be there, and they will be ready, and they will be fully operable, because I have radio technicians in the squad, to give us the best chance for it to operate and to get somebody. If you don't have a cell phone, or you don't have a landline, how are you going to get a hold of somebody if you need it? I assume that people are still going to have heart attacks and fall, and you're going to need to know where to go. Now in Kings Point, the North and South Gate have a radio. First Service has a radio. The Master has a radio. All of these different entities have a radio so that they can contact us telling us what they need at that time. So you would make your way down there to tell them that you need assistance and what you need. In addition to that, because what good would it do for them to call me with a radio, and where am I going to reach out to? I can call the fire department, but we have these cell phones. These are FirstNet phones. FirstNet phones are a national contract that was issued out, and that contract says that they have to be up and running and serviceable 14 hours after the storm. So they restore first service phone or first line phones, or is it FirstNet? So we would be able to call anybody at that point. And that's what we're going to need, is the ability to call out people, reach out and touch somebody. And the emergency squad has 8 of these phones. And we keep them ready to go all the time. Okay. Anything, is HCFR here? All right, I had asked Hillsborough Fire Rescue to come. I wanted the local to come down here. It was always going to be an iffy situation. It's a good news, bad thing. It's bad news that they're not here to be in front of you. They aren't in the back, are they? They wear those dark shirts. I can't see them with all that backdrop. But the bad news, they can't be here with you. The good news is they're probably out helping somebody in this community that needs help. And that's the good part of it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up Hillsborough County Sheriff's Officer, Deputy Jeff Mary, no stranger to the community. And he is going to tell you all about everything you should do.
You did. Good morning, everybody. I'm Deputy Jeff Mary with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. I'm the Community Resource Deputy for Sun City Center, for those of you who don't know me. And I just want to kind of give you a couple pointers today because there's a 3-minute timer over here. You got it? You got it? So have you started yet? No. Okay. I get 3.5 minutes. So well, one thing I want you to walk away from this meeting with is to have a plan. Now, I don't pretend to know your plan. I don't pretend to know your situation, but have a plan. Are you going to stay? Are you going to shelter in place when a hurricane comes, or are you going to evacuate? And you can have it as a sliding scale. If it's a 1 or 2, I'm going to stay. If it's a 3 or 4, I'm going to leave, and where you're going to go. You need those logistics in place today and not 2 days before the storm. So know what you're going to do today, whether you're going to stay here or whether you're going to leave. Then it makes it much easier, and then you're not in panic mode 3 days before when Wawa's out of gas and Publix has no water and I-75 is, I mean, look at Sun City Center Boulevard at lunchtime. You think when everybody evacuates, what's it going to be like then? So know your plan, know what you're going to do, and then stick with it, okay? If you're in that gray zone, that I don't know, that's where things happen that we don't want to happen. That's when emergency situations get worse. But if you have a plan and stick to it, you're more than likely to survive the incident, have less damage, so on and so forth. So when you walk out of here today, know your plan, and when a storm comes, stick to it, okay? And again, I would say I have a sliding scale, but being with the Sheriff's Office, I will be here in Sun City Center, no matter what size the storm is. But if you do shelter in place, I want you to know that when the winds exceed 35 miles an hour sustained, there will be no emergency services responding to your residence. Okay? None. The Sheriff's Office Fire Rescue Emergency Squad, at 35 mile an hour sustained winds, we shut down and we don't operate again until those winds go back below 35 miles an hour. So any medical issues that you have, any emergency situations that arise during that time period, you're on your own. So if you stay here, if you shelter in place, make sure you have everything to be able to take care of those medical issues, to be able to take care of any damage. So you'll need tarps and medication, and if you need more oxygen or extra prescription medications. And those are kind of things that, again, once you make your plan, then you can put together what you're going to need based on your own logistics. But understand that if you shelter in place, there may be a chance when you won't have any emergency services. Is the person for the Hillsborough County Shelters here today? No. Shelters open on an as-needed basis. I believe only 2 shelters were open for this last Hurricane Elsa. And if the storm is bigger or we're going to get a more direct hit, more and more shelters were open. You can go to a shelter. You don't have to be in an evacuation zone. If you have a medical need, you have to call the Hillsborough County Health Department and schedule and reserve a spot in the medical needs or special needs shelter, which is on USF campus. If you have any medical machines, if you have any oxygen, things such as that, of that nature, that's why you would go to USF and be in the special needs shelter. If you have pets, you can take them to the pet shelter. That's Beth Shields Middle School is our shelter, number 1, but it also is a pet shelter. Understand that if you do decide to go to a shelter, leave your residence and go to a shelter, it's not the JW Marriott. Okay, it's not. You're not getting 1,000-count thread linens. This is, no room service. It's basically like this auditorium, and you get a mattress and a little area for the duration of the storm. So, and that again, that'll help you make your decision and make your plan to know these things ahead of time. So, if you have any other questions or issues, or you want more help making your plan, as soon as this is over, right over there at the table, and then there's also several other vendors that can help you with other little points. So, thank you.
Okay, the next presenter is going to be Ryan Pettigo. Ryan? Oh, there he is. blending in all these dark shirts. He is the Director of Emergency Management for Department of Health, and he deals with the special needs shelters. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, everyone. As Chief Cardell said, I'm Brian Pettigo. I'm the Director for Health. Can't hear me? Now can you hear me? Okay. He's short, so. I'm Ryan Pettigo, Florida Department of Health, and in the state of Florida, we have what is called the Special Needs Sheltering Program. And that is one thing that we actually manage in concert with the county's emergency management. We actually have 3 shelters in the county that are designated as special needs. And basically what that is, as the deputy indicated, it's a room like this. It's bare bones. There's no bedside nursing. There's no doctors that are going to come and give you a new prescription or whatever you want. It's simply a place where you can temporarily shelter safely. Now, some people, when they come to the shelter, they kind of like it. It's a social event. And they will get in a specific location in the shelter, and they come out for years. We have the same people going back to 2004 that still come out to our shelters, and they want their same cot location. And they wonder, why are we doing this? The issue is, what a special needs shelter does is it gives you continuous electricity. If you have a CPAP, BPAP, oxygen concentrators, any kind of medical machine that needs electricity, it will be there. We bring in generators, we'll set them up. But as the deputy indicated, during ELSO, we only opened up 1 shelter. That was at Riverview High School. And that is one of our designated special needs shelters, but we're not going to always open it. During Hurricane Irma, we did not open Riverview. The decision to open up a shelter will be made based on the storm, which is why if you don't have a plan, you could be hurting. You could be hurting. One of the things we try to stress to everybody, we have bed space for about 1,500 to 1,700 people. There's about, estimate, 18,000 individuals who would meet special needs criteria in this county. So we encourage you to pre-register with us so that way we can kind of plan what we might need to bring. If 60% of the people registered need oxygen, we know the number to plan. If you have medications, the state now has a law that was enacted in the late 2008, 2009, where if you're on prescription medication, you can get a 30-day supply as soon as that governor issues the emergency order. How many of you knew that? How many of your doctors have told you that? These are things you need to be aware of, because once you're at that shelter, there is no pharmacy there. We do have food. If you think back to your days in elementary school, that's the kind of food we're going to give you, because we don't want you to stay in the shelter. But it's up to you to plan, and that's why these kinds of events are great. We do have a booth over here. We have a lot of information about the program. We have registration forms. You can imagine, because you hear they got electricity, that means they must have air conditioning. And if they have air conditioning and electricity, they probably have coffee. So we will get everyone from Plant City trying to come into our shelters, and we have to turn them away. You have to meet certain medical criteria, and then there's times where you might exceed our criteria, and that wouldn't be a safe place. We work with the hospital systems throughout this county, as well as Pasco and Pinellas and Polk, to place people. That doesn't mean if you think you need to be in a hospital, you should go to a hospital to try to shelter. That is the worst thing you can do. That hospital is going to be filled. They have minimal staffing now. Wait till a hurricane comes, they're going to have even less. Register for special needs. We will place you at the time of the hospital. We're not going to assign you to, say, Mr. Zimmerman in South Bay. We're going to have a doctor look at what you've reported to us and call one of his doctors and say, is this appropriate for an admission? So we used to do that the other way, and it got to be a big mess during Irma, so we have changed the process now. But please do not self-evacuate to a hospital on your own. They're busy enough now, and all those people who were ill the day before the storm, they're still ill when the storm is hit. And that's where they need to focus their attention. And I think that's my 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Oh, okay. All righty. On that tone of voice, I'm going to leave.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. A lot of these people, I'd like you to give a round of applause to all these people. They came out and they made time in their schedules to come out and talk with you. Ursula, is she here from county shelters? I've had many conversations with her. She was coming out. She had to come out from Tampa, so she may have got caught in traffic, rain. I have no idea. But on the shelters, it was a big bone of contention whether you could go to a shelter if you were not in an evacuation zone. And a couple of years ago, that was straightened out, and anybody can go. But just don't anticipate that you're going to get the lap of luxury. And I think what Ryan's saying is very, very accurate. Plan on just the basic of food groups, but elementary school, because most of the shelters are going to be in schools. They also, once they meet their capacity, they're going to turn you away, and then you have to go to the next one. They'll tell you where the next one is operable. So it's open on as a need basis. They just don't open 30 shelters and have all the staff. Remember, they got to staff each one of these facilities that they are. And after the event is over with, they're going to close them back down again. So, and then you're going to have to find your way home. So for most people, if you have the means, staying in shelter in place is the best thing to do. Next person I'm going to bring up is CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. Bob Preston. Bob, where are you?
Thanks, Mike. It's a great day to live in Kings Point. My 3 minutes is almost up. I think that's it. I'm beginning to feel abused. There we go. Don't breathe. Okay, as Mike said, I'm with the Sun City Center Community Emergency Response Team. The two key words up there are community and response. From the community standpoint, we consider ourselves the Greater Sun City Center Community Emergency Response Team. We take care of anybody within our community, no matter what their need is, if we're the proper agency to do that. And response is pretty clear. We respond. We don't go out and make things happen. We support whoever needs it. You may have seen us around here during the COVID-19 testing and the COVID-19 vaccines. We were active over at the hospital for those two events, and also right here in Kings Point. All of our volunteers graciously helped out with that particular event. Can I have the next slide, hopefully? The last hurricane that made a direct hit on this area was in October of 1921. 100 years ago. 100 years ago. Now that doesn't mean we're going to have one tomorrow or next week or next year or the next decade. It's just a point to be made. $5 million worth of damage equal to $67 million in today's money. I think there was 15 deaths. There's some photos associated with this. I'm not going to present them today, but basically what they showed were some boats washed up on in the port of Tampa, a lot of buildings blown down and wires down, etc. One of my colleagues said, you know, Bob, what are you putting that up there for? Way over here in Sun City Center. Well, my guess is that in 1921, Sun City Center may have been a dirt road running from one side of the county to the other. Maybe nothing but jungle and farmland. I don't know. I don't know anybody that was around at that time. But nonetheless, it was a devastating hurricane. It was devastating. So there's been 4 major hurricanes in the state of Florida, and that was not one of them. That was the one that made particular note here in the Tampa Bay area. It's already been said once, and my guess is you're going to hear it more than once. You are responsible for your own safety and security. You. Each one of us, we are responsible for our own personal safety and security, and for the safety and security of our family. Look, we live in a land of hurricanes, tropical storms, tornadoes, sinkholes, and God knows what's flying overhead. We're down the highway. We don't know, do we? But keep in mind that no matter what kind of disaster we're faced here, that the people who respond to you are your neighbors. They live in Hillsborough County as well. They're affected just as you are. So they may be available, they may have a worse situation at their home than you have, but while we have 50 or 60 people in an organization, maybe only 20 might be available. However, you can't help yourself. It doesn't take much effort. There's going to be a lot of information provided to you today. It's a good idea to pay attention to it and learn from it. By the way, that was the second time you heard the statement that you're responsible for your own personal security and safety. I think you may hear it again. Here's the key. Be prepared. Always be aware of your surroundings, whether it's a storm or not. You know, in this part of Florida, this time of year, you have 2 atmospheres colliding, one from the Atlantic, one from the Gulf, and who knows what can happen. We've seen lightning and thunder and rain in the past couple of weeks that have been outrageous. There's an alert program available to your cell phone that the county can provide you information of an event that goes on. It's not just a silver alert. It's not just an amber alert. It provides information about other things that are going on in the county that may affect you or may not affect you. May change the route that you might take on one place or another. Stock up. Those BOGOs are a good deal. Come January, start thinking about hurricane season. Stock up. Canned goods, same thing when you do get a notice that there's something impending. Go get extra food. But beware of the expiration dates. You don't want to have a hurricane in the middle of August and you open up a can of tuna and the expiration date was May. Maybe you'll eat it, maybe you won't. I don't think I would. You have to have a plan. I think that's been said. This is the 3rd time. Have a plan. It can't be said enough. Have a plan. Figure out what you want to do. Build your plan in January. Or, what did he say, January? Yes, he said January. Build or review your plan in January. You're sitting around. It's winter, whatever winter's like here in Florida, as we know. But take a look. What are you going to do? If you don't have a plan, put one together. Don't wait. Don't wait till the first dust storm rolls off the east side of Africa. Don't wait till somebody says we have a potential hit in 36 or 48 hours. Do it in January. And then when you're done with that plan, or while you're reviewing that plan, walk through it. You can put it on paper. It's like reading a recipe for a cake. You can read it and follow the directions, but it isn't necessarily going to turn out like grandma's. So go through a little mock exercise. Walk through your house, do the things you're going to do, touch, feel, write notes, and see if that's going to work for you. And it may change from one year to the next. So exercise your plan. Now the question. This is the second time you've heard this. Will you stay or will you evacuate? It's an interesting decision. Why not make that decision in January? You can always change your mind. Don't worry about if it's a Cat 1 or a Cat 5. If you're going to evacuate, where are you going to go? I think Deputy Murray made a comment to the effect that the highways are going to be jammed. There's only 2 north routes out of Florida. 75 on the west and 95 on the east. I-4 doesn't help a whole lot because it converges with 95. Now there's several other highways out of town, but they're heading through towns and they're going to be just as crowded. But make a plan. Pick one choice, one route or the other. And also, you have a favorite hotel you like? Make your reservations early. Remember, you can always cancel before 6 o'clock and not have to pay for it. So make sure you have a plan to when you want to evacuate as well. Next slide. Be a survivor. Don't be a victim. Somebody talked about storm surge. We're 52 feet above sea level. Unless we have a tsunami in Tampa Bay, I don't think we have a problem with a storm surge. There's plenty of information out here today to help you. Make a plan that works for you. Live with confidence in your plan. And be a survivor, not a victim. And if you want information about the Sun City Center Community Emergency Response Team, our table is in the far left corner. Stop by. Pick up one of our brochures. Thank you.
I was thinking about the same thing, Bob, be a survivor. Because of it. The next one we're going to have is Samaritan Services. John Marca, the president of Samaritans.
Good morning. Thanks for coming out. I represent Samaritan Services. I'm the president of the board, and our planning is short. Gentlemen before me have covered many of the important steps. Mine's a little bit more specified towards what we offer and don't offer. Samaritan Services will operate on a priority basis before a pending storm. 2 days prior, we cancel all out-of-town rides. Most of our out-of-town rides are for doctor's appointments, so make your plans accordingly. It will also allow us to free up cars for in-town. We will run in-town cars up to the point of 35-mile-an-hour wind speeds. When we get the word that it's winds blowing 35 miles an hour or better, we pull our cars off the highway. No ifs, ands, or buts. We're not jeopardizing our drivers nor our passengers. We will, while we can provide transportation, will be to doctor's offices, pharmacies, grocery stores, and also to, if you want to go to a friend's house for the length of the storm, we can take you to your friend's house, as long as they're here within Sun City Center, and Kings Point, and Freedom Plaza. When we receive notification that the roads are safe, we will be back in motion. We will start offering in-town rides. Grocery stores should be open. I'm sure there'll be unlimited supply of goods, but we will take you to the grocery stores again. We will take you to pharmacies if they are open. We'll take you to a doctor's office here in town if they are open. If we lose power, we will be in contact with the emergency squad by radio. We do have one of these nice little radios that we pointed out to you. We will try to be as flexible as possible. The only thing we won't be able to do is take you to an evacuation center. It's out of town, so we can't do it. Our insurance won't allow it. It's that simple. Meals on Wheels program will probably be stopped the day before. They will make sure that you have what you need up to that point, and the hospitals will do what they can to get the food to you. Again, that will go after the storm is passed and the roads are deemed safe. The drivers will start to deliver again. The Women's Club will contact all residents receiving meals to ensure that they have bottled water and emergency provisions. They will get it to you. This is a little bit shorter than everybody else in front of me. So after this is over, my table is over here. It says I'm earning services. I've got 3 great people sitting there who will answer any questions you have. Please take the time, go over there, ask them questions, and we'll help you out any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next person we're going to have is Security Patrol, Tim Broad. He's the Chief of Security.
The role of the Security Patrol is to observe and report. Warnings of hurricanes are published days in advance of when it's going to come. It can be seen, we can see it. The Security Patrol will be looking after its own facilities and making sure its own people are having their own plans to look after their families and their properties in town. If you do decide to leave, it is a very good idea to come to the Security Patrol offices and fill out a house watch card. This will enable, if there is damage to your property, we will know A, how to contact you, and B, how, if anybody has a key, so as they have your permission to go into the property. We, as the patrol, do not have any rights. We will be trespassing to go into anyone's place. So those cards are important if you're going to leave the area. Ahead of the hurricane coming, we will continue patrolling as we do all the time, from 9 till 9. And we will continue to operate those patrols until the limiting conditions are met. People talk about 35-mile-an-hour sustained winds. We don't want cars on the road then. We will also stop driving if the captain of the day deems that visibility conditions in driving rain or whatever make it unsafe to be on the road. You've got to remember, we want to make sure everybody is kept safe. As soon as a hurricane has passed by, the senior members of the patrol, the deputy chief and myself will take out 2 of our high-vis vehicles and drive as best we can to make sure and see what is it safe for our vehicles to go out on the road. We will keep in touch with the disaster control, let them know what the problems are or where we are and what we're doing. If requested by the Sheriff's Office, we'd be pleased to help with traffic control if there is problems clearing of roads. In the event someone's reported missing because they wandered somewhere, we have a squad able to go and help search for them, but we do this through the Disaster Control Centre. We do not just call us and we will use our resources to answer any phone. It will go through a central control. We will continue patrolling as best we can as soon as the hurricane has passed, and we believe that the presence of our vehicles on the road will deter the undesirables who may come into the area in the event of serious damage and start looting of places. We will certainly work very closely with the Sheriff's Office to keep them well informed of everybody around. That is it for the security patrol. Thank you.
Another item that you might think in Kings Point, security patrol, but very helpful. In Elsa, I talked to Tim very early in the morning, the day after, because they were out on the roads, and got a road status of any trees down or any power lines, so that we could let leadership know in the community what kind of problems there are out there. So they do provide a valuable assistance. I mean, you're inside the gates here, Vesta does it, but outside there, they are out in the community for you. The next one is going to be South Bay Hospital, Mike Zimmerman. I understand you're out there, but I cannot see you. Never thought to look up front. He's a man of many talents. He is a certified instructor in CERT. Has been in this field with disasters for many, many years. He has a lot of titles at the hospital. I don't say I know them all. I know he's responsible for the emergency room and also BCU. Is it? Something. He's got a lot of them, but he's got a lot of responsibility and is committed to this community. And thank you, Mike, for coming.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. And thank you all for allowing me to speak to you all today. So my name is Mike Zimmerman, and I am the Director of Emergency and Preparedness Services. And again, as Mike alluded to, my background has been disaster management for probably about 30 years. So this is no stranger to me. And as everybody has said up here and will continue to speak about throughout the day, really the key to this is preparedness and having a plan and making sure you execute that plan and communicate that plan. That's one of our key successes at the hospital. South Bay Hospital offers one of the area's most comprehensive disaster preparedness plans. We are a part of the HCA network, which for those of you that are not familiar with HCA, we're 186 hospitals nationwide and abroad across the globe. And with that comes a lot of resources. We have partnerships with major air transportation companies, logistics, and our Disaster Operations Center based out of Nashville, Tennessee, is one of the most robust and comprehensive emergency management disaster operations centers that I've come across in my career. What that means for you locally is that we're prepared. Our hospital is at a beautiful elevation of 32 feet, so I don't foresee any kind of stormwater intrusion or any issues there. Our first floor of our hospital has been reinforced for hurricane shutters and so on the older part of the building. The newer part of the building, the tower that faces 674, is all rated with hurricane glass, and we're sitting very pretty. So much so is that our West Florida Division senior team and executive team actually relocates to our hospital, and they actually base the West Florida Division, covering from Citrus County all the way to Charlotte County. They base their operations out of our hospital. One thing to take away from this is that, as Ryan mentioned earlier, the South Bay Hospital is not a shelter. And I know a lot of times people panic, they get a little nervous as the storm gets closer, and they now feel certain that it's coming, and then they come to the hospital. And as Ryan alluded to, there's really not a lot of space there. We go to disaster staffing models, which brings in core staff to keep all of our patients and caregivers safe, but no extra. We do not even bring in immediate family of those caregivers. We ask them to make arrangements to either find shelter locally or evacuate the area and well in advance. This is something that we preach to all of our staff. We want to make sure that they're safe too and their families are safe so that they can provide the best care, not being worried about what's happening at their home. We have a lot of transfer processes in place. As I said, being a part of the HCA network, we actually have many, many transfer agreements with local EMS services and private EMS services to relocate patients that need to be relocated. And we do a quick evaluation of that as a storm approaches or a disaster presents itself. We are an acute care hospital, so we can sustain ourselves up to 120 hours, so that's a pretty comprehensive plan. We do have backup generators, 2 generators as well, that can sustain our hospital for many days. And we've exercised this plan continuously throughout the year, much to many of the staff's chagrin. But I like to keep it ahead of the game rather than playing catch up. So one of the things that I did want to mention and reinforce is that if you have home health care or you are medically needy, as mentioned, CPAP, minor medical things, talk to your primary care physicians. Make sure you have this plan in place. Talk to your home health agencies, your case managers or your care coordinators. Let them know that your plan is to stay here or to evacuate, and what steps do you need to take. Make that conversation happen early as possible. The time to have that conversation is not when a storm has been spotted in the Gulf or is it now threatening the Tampa Bay region. 5-day medication supply, as mentioned. Ryan said, you know, with declarations, you can get a much higher amount of medications. Make sure you have care instructions, because sometimes if you have a caregiver that's taking care of you, it may not be a regular one. It may be a fill-in because your regular caregiver is not there. So make sure you have written care instructions from your physician. Any kind of special equipment, if you do need to evacuate, make sure you have that with you. Obviously, we can't bring hospital beds into general population shelters, but you know, if you sleep with a wedge under your head to help with acid reflux or help with breathing, these are things that you need to think about ahead of time. And the biggest thing is, if you do have true special needs, have that conversation. Reach out to Hillsborough County Emergency Management or the Department of Health. Get on the special needs registry now. Do not wait, because all too often that's what happens. People wait, a storm's approaching, and now we're trying to in-process somebody, and that's not the time to do it. And I've been on the receiving end of many special needs shelters where school buses full of people evacuate from skilled nursing facilities or assisted living facilities that did not have a good comprehensive emergency management plan. And again, we have to deal with that in the now. So that puts an extra tax on our services. We don't want that to happen. We don't want you to be put in that situation. Another thing that probably does not affect this community as well, but it does, because a lot of people don't think about pregnancy. But I will tell you that people laugh about South Bay Hospital being an advanced population hospital, but I can tell you we've birthed more babies in the past couple of years than I choose to discuss. That being said, a lot of times you have family in town, or grandkids, or whatnot. So keep in mind, I would be remiss not to discuss it here. If you are expecting a mother, please, please, please take consideration, because what happens when barometric pressures change in the area, babies start wanting to come out and greet the world. South Bay Hospital can and will deliver babies. Our ER is fully equipped to do that, but our hospital is not equipped to care for the babies after birth. And we don't want to have to transfer newborn babies in the middle of a storm. So keep that in mind. Have those discussions. If you have family visiting that would fit that category, or you know somebody that would, make sure that they're aware of it. Because again, why are we here today? We're talking about education and preparedness. And that's the biggest thing that we can do, is be prepared, have a plan, make a kit, make sure it's communicated to all your friends and family, because it's great if you have a plan, but if nobody knows what your plan is, they're going to be looking for you. They're going to be panicked. They're going to be calling my ER and saying, I haven't heard from dear Aunt Sally or Uncle Joe for the past 3 days, and there's a store coming. Where are they? They've got to be at your hospital. And so that takes resources away as well. So make sure your plan's communicated. If you do plan to evacuate or relocate, or if you are going to a shelter, let that be known to all your friends and family, as many people you can. And with that, that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
If you're a resident of Sun City Center and you find yourself in the family way, you may want to think about trying to capitalize on this moment. Never thought about that before now. That's not one I want to take away from here either. And next we're going to have Tico, Kelly Carnegie. He is the coordinator for emergency management for Tico. We appreciate him coming in.
Thank you, Chief, and thanks for having me here to speak with you all today. I do recognize some faces here because I'm also a volunteer at the squad, so I'm an EMT down here as well. Good. Good morning. As the Chief alluded to, I'm Kelly Carnegie, Coordinator of Emergency Management for Tampa Electric. I want to start out with a safety tip. One of our biggest concerns after a storm, even after this tropical storm Elsa, that didn't do too much damage, thank goodness, but is down power lines. A lot of people don't realize that they're not going to sit there and arc and spark and jitter around a down power line. I want you to always assume that it's energized. In the movies, you'll see them moving around and flopping around and sparking, and That doesn't always happen. It will lay there looking like a dead snake. So if you ever come across a down power line, even if you don't know if it's a power line, because there's a lot of communication lines on these poles and everything too. So if you find any kind of downed wire, just report it, and you can call 911 to report down power lines. We actually have team members that work in the EOC here in Hillsborough County, City of Tampa, all of the areas that we operate in. And their job is to report wires down to our team so we can get someone there immediately to, we call it cut and clear it. They'll cut the wire down and clear it so it's not a safety hazard to the community. So that's a big safety thing. Please keep that in mind. Another thing is generator safety. After storms, a lot of people don't use generators appropriately. They'll put them in their garage. And unfortunately, the fumes are toxic and they can kill you. And almost every major hurricane, there's a story about a family that perished because of a generator and improper use of that. So I wanted to start out with a couple safety tips. Now let me tell you a little bit about what you can do and what we do as a company when a hurricane comes through. First off, if your power is out, please report it. You can report power outages. You can even text it now, so you don't have to wait on hold, especially during a storm. We get extra call takers, but it's very busy. So you can text now. You can text your outage, and you'll get updates via the text right back to your cell phone. It's super awesome. I use it at my house too. But always report an outage. It gets in our system faster in our log, and hopefully your repair will get done more quickly. A lot of people assume that we just know as soon as your power goes out, oh, this customer's out. We are advancing our infrastructure to the point where we will know that in the future, but right now it's a mix. It's called advanced meter infrastructure. I don't know if you all have had it in this community yet, where TICO will come out and they'll pop in a new meter, and that's to help with things like this in the future, so we can get your power restored. Another thing, what we do, just right after a big storm, and I'll use Hurricane Irma as an example. Our priority, we just like fire, police, EMS, everyone in the community, stop operating at certain wind speeds, but our cutoff is 40 miles per hour. So once those winds pick up to 40 miles per hour, our trucks, our troublemen, our line workers, they're done going out to restore the power. Everything that can be done from our energy control center, like flipping switches, we do things like that throughout the event, but we're gonna be off the road until that wind gets below 40 miles per hour sustained as well. I think theirs is 35, but ours is 40. And what we do the day, once the winds drop below 40, is we do a damage assessment. So we're gonna go out and we have teams that actually patrol the circuits. And a circuit goes from a substation all the way up to the end, whatever's on that line. It could be South Bay Hospital, houses, businesses. We patrol the circuits and report damage. At the same time, we're also restoring priority 1 circuits, which are South Bay Hospital and the squad building, fire stations, the sheriff's office, any first responder type building, we're gonna restore those first. And we don't determine this. This is in conjunction with Hillsborough County Emergency Management as well as the City of Tampa. So we have a plan. We plan in blue sky days, and we activate that plan once a hurricane comes. And then there's 5 different priorities. There's 2, which will include different things like nursing homes or assisted living facilities. And you could be lucky if you live near South Bay and happen to be on that circuit. But just keep in mind there's a priority, and we truly want to get everybody restored as quickly as possible, but we have to do it in a safe manner. I'll be up here to your front right, my left, in that corner if you want to talk, have any questions afterwards. I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Now we'll have Vern Hendricks of Sun Radio.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Vern. I'm the Director of Programming at Sun Radio. They put me over there in the corner. There's probably a reason for that. Indulge me for just a moment. I'd like those of you who did not know that there was a radio station in this town, make some noise. If you know we're here, just don't do anything. But if you did not know we were here, please make some noise. Okay, good. We've partially done our job. So those of you who did not know, please stop by the table and say hello. We'll be over there. We're going to do our level best to stay on the air for as long as we can during an emergency. We have an emergency assist system that is the same as many of the other radio stations do, and we're also on the media list right along with WFLA and all of the big players for the National Weather Service over in Ruskin to let us know what's going on. But we are staff of volunteers. There is 6 on-the-air people and 5 more support people. And, oh wait a minute, I forgot my wife, 7 on-the-air people and 4 support staff people to take care of all that. And we'll do everything. Right now, we are broadcasting every couple of hours hurricane tips. And you will hear hurricane preparedness tips broadcast every couple of hours, maybe even every hour. It all depends upon how long some of the songs play, because it's all done by computers. And you'll hear Jeff Mary, you'll hear Robin Watt, you'll hear Stacy White, our commissioner, you'll hear the National Weather Service. We've got a whole bunch of tips, and as we get more, we're going to bring them to you. So tune the radio to 96.3 FM or WSCQFM.com. We're there as well. I'm on Thursday mornings. My good friend Tony is on Wednesday afternoons, and we're going to be over at the table when this is done. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Vern. All right, now I'll tell you about the emergency squad. I don't want to repeat a lot of stuff. We, like everybody else, shut down to 35. Our buildings have been, over the last couple of years, we've strengthened our buildings to be hurricane resistant, not hurricane proof, resistant, so that we can be there after an event. We'd not declare it too much an emergency service if we can't be there after it's done. So our buildings are pretty well done. We've also done an evacuation and moved our whole operation from one building to our education center on South Pebble. We did it in 2016. We did it lock, stock, and barrel, and moved, and we stayed there for 30 days. We did it when we were remodeling the building, but we thought it was an excellent opportunity to practice disaster planning. It worked out, but we found out we were really close as a family when we were working in smaller positions. The vehicles, they're entirely a different story and different from most of the other people. I can't just go out to the ambulance store, even if I've got a check from the insurance company in hand, because nobody has ambulances there for sale. Ours took 6 months to build. You have to get in a priority. So the best way we can do it to stay in there is to preserve our resources, which is why when we get ready for a hurricane, we put one of them over in the training center in the building. We keep 2 in our regular building, and then we move 1 to Valrico, and we strap it down. So that way we can preserve those assets when the event is over to bring it back and still have an ambulance to support this community. And my hat is off to all of the people at the Sun City Emergency Squad for all that they do for the community and have for so many years. I guess I forgot my primary job. Next is going to be First Service Residential, Keith Wilkie as the General Manager.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everybody. It's a fantastic event. My hat's off to all the participants here today. There was a lot of effort and time that was put into this, so thank you, everybody. And speaking of that, resources. If you look around the room, you have tons and tons of resources. So again, I encourage you to ask your questions to them afterwards and get those answered and be prepared. I'll just briefly talk about the role of First Service as the association management company here for Kings Point. We manage the Federation's team of people. We have 113 condominium associations here. So I'm just going to run through the before, during, and after real quick. So before the storm, we're obviously trying to communicate with all the residents as much as possible, just giving you updates on our office preparations, the preparations on your property. The cams are going around the properties, trying to inspect as well for those loose objects, and communicating with the boards of directors or the unit owners on those preparations. So in light of that, we want to make sure that everybody's information is always up to date. So we always encourage getting your phone numbers and your emails, if you've changed those, get those to our office and get those updated, because that's part of the process of getting that information out to you and then reaching you after the storm if something does happen to one of your associations or buildings. During the storm, again, we will close our offices early to allow our team to prepare themselves, and safety is our main concern with residents and our staff. As they ride out the storm, again, the storms are all situational. You know, it depends on the severity of the storm and what's going to happen, and that obviously in turns, you know, how everybody can react after the storm passes. So you hear about the security patrol, emergency squad. Same thing goes with the vendors here. You know, once it's safe for them to come out and the roads are clear, our team will be out here, and we'll be communicating directly with those vendors. We brought several restoration companies that we've teamed up with here, and the gentleman from USI Insurance and Heritage Insurance. Again, they'll be out here as soon as we can, as soon as it's safe for everybody. So we'll be back to communicating. We'll be communicating with all the boards of directors. We'll be assessing damages to the buildings. It's our role, our primary role, to make sure we preserve those assets. So that's part of the teams that are here, to make sure they get out and start preserving those assets and covering the roofs up, extracting water where needed, closing up windows and doors. It's again, to preserve the assets. We're not going to be able to build it back right away, but the goal is to preserve it and then let these gentlemen over here get in there and assess the damage. Again, there'll be constant communication once the cams are back on site and the office is back open. We'll be, again, communicating directly with the boards of directors on how to best handle the situation and communicate effectively with their unit owners. I had the experience to be able to go through Irma and have some properties take some massive damage, so it can happen, and it's not a fun experience. So again, use your resources, you know, be prepared, put the plan together. You've heard it a few times a day, so we encourage you that. First Service is here. We're going to be here for the community. We'll be on site. Our company is very large, and we have resources that we can pull in from different parts of the state or different states as well. So, you know, we're here for you. So with that, I'm going to have the 4 restoration companies come line up back here. I'm just going to introduce them one at a time. Just let them put a face with the name and let them talk about their company for a minute, and then bring up USI. So first up is Expert Water Removal. Again, these vendors have been in agreement with us to respond after an emergency. So they are preferred vendors here. You know, they've been inside the associations and done some great work in here. So again, I'll introduce Expert Water first.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? Everybody still excited about this? My name is Tim Oltz. I'm with Expert Water Removal. We are a full-service disaster cleanup company. We specialize in water, fire, sewer backup restoration, and mold remediation. Like I said, we are full service, so we have our Class A general contractor's license, so we can handle any of your restoration needs from start to finish, including structural. We also service from Tampa to Cape Coral. I know there was supposed to be some points, but I was going to touch on those, but as I was sitting over there, I thought, what's the most important thing that associations that I deal with ask about? Who here wants to be their association be a part of a priority list during a disaster? Everyone, right? Everyone wants that? Well, there's a couple ways you could do that. Use your vendors. Use your preferred vendors during the year, not just during a disaster, because we remember that stuff, trust me. Also, I actually do an emergency response plan. Expert Water does. So if you guys have any questions about that, please feel free to come over and talk with me about it. I can go through it. So with that ado, thank you.
Next is Restoration 1.
Good morning, everybody. Jeff Organ from Restoration 1, here with our sales rep, Brett. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I know I don't look that nice, guys, but I'm out in the field working every day and trying to put people's houses back to where they were prior to losses. The biggest thing with our company is communication. You really want our number on your fridge. Grab a couple magnets off our table. We respond rapidly to most disasters, especially hurricanes. So the ability to just give us a call and have that number even stored in your phone is a great idea. Our ability to get out to you will depend on how much of a rush we have, but usually we have the ability with a big staff to get out there as soon as possible. When these hurricanes come, the biggest thing you should be prepared for, in my opinion, is a list of phone numbers, not just one vendor, but a bunch of us, emergency services like they spoke about, communications, where to go. I mean, that was all spoken about already. I would say the biggest thing is battery backups. I don't know if you guys have them for your cell phones. They make a battery pack that you charge, keep that in your house. That's always a good thing when the lights go out. Maybe if there's cell service, that's usually the first thing that comes up, is to have a backup for that cell phone, because that's your main need of communication. So that's most important. Food, evacuation, that's all up to you. You make that decision. When you call Restoration 1 in, we'll come in, we'll handle that claim from start to finish. We'll coordinate with the management company and the insurance companies and move you in the right direction as fast as possible. As you guys know, I don't know, give me hands. Has anyone had a claim before on their home? Can I have hands if anyone's had major claims at their houses? Well, as you know, it starts real fast, then it gets real slow, and then it picks up speed at the end. So we'll help you through all those situations of explaining how the claim works and how the dry out and rebuild goes about on a claim. But once again, grab our magnet. We're a phone call away. Any questions, someone will pick up the phone. You're not going to get a recording. You're going to have the ability to get in touch with one of us within, someone will get back to you, or you'll get somebody live on the phone right away. You have anything to say, Brett?
Yeah, I was just want to say that it looks like some of the buildings or the areas within the subdivision here have been designated to Restoration 1, First Service, and so forth. If you're in the building or if you're in the audience today, come over and say hello to us and let's talk about a master plan for you. We'll sit down and work with you individually on developing that plan. I know it's all spelled out, but we can certainly add some points to it, so thank you.
Next is a Service Master.
Good morning, South Hillsborough, Kingsport family. This is Cedric with Service Master 24 Hour. Let me introduce you guys quickly to our squad. There's Scott, there's Todd, there's Courtney, and myself, Cedric, which is AKA also known as C Squared. Let me give you guys a little bit to ponder on so that you guys can remember a little bit about Service Master. If you happen to come home to your property and discover a lazy river flowing throughout your property, what do? If you happen to wake up to chestnuts roasting over the open fire and you don't have a fireplace, again, what do? And then lastly, if you discover a skylight as the wind is blowing and it's blowing off the top and the skylight's been installed in your property, what do? Hopefully you would quickly call Service Master 24 Hours, C Squared, to whereas we would come out to work with your insurance companies to put your property back to pre-loss conditions. So remember, if you have a small issue or a complex large disaster, don't hesitate. Call Service Master 24 Hour. Now that's just a little bit to talk about this, but let's talk about the real gist of it, is disaster preparation. Service Master has a program called Priority Response Program, to whereas it's all about planning. It's all about being prepared ahead of time. What we want you to do is to just put those plans together. You've heard it here, plan in January, plan in February, plan in March. I'm going to tell you when the best time to plan. But better yet, how many of you have a things to do list? Raise your hand. How many have a things to do list? It could be something like drop off the dry cleaning at going to work, or pick up a gallon of milk, or shave your bald head every other day. I'm sorry, that's my things to do list. But better yet, we want you to be able to reach out to Service Master 24 Hours and let that be one of the most productive things you do today. So again, Service Master 24 Hours. Thanks.
Thank you. And last but not least is Paul Davis.
Awesome. Good morning. Thank you for having me today. I am blown away by the amount of preparation that has gone into this meeting and the resources in this room. And thank you all for participating today. My name is Leah Bradley Dar. I am the Director of Business Development and Client Services at Paul Davis, and I would like to thank you all for having me today. We're a full-service property restoration company and a national franchise network of over 350 offices across the U.S. and Canada. We have 23 offices in the state of Florida, and we've been restoring lives and properties for over 50 years. and I represent the Tampa office, and I've been, which is located about 20 minutes north of here. We are full service and a single source solution for all your property needs as it relates to water mitigation, fire restoration, mold remediation, and storm damage cleanup. We can handle small or large losses. And our 25,000 square foot facility in Tampa houses all of our extractors, our air movers, our dehumidifiers, tarps, plywood, sandbags, and would be used to respond to Kings Point pre and post catastrophe. We have also aligned ourselves with several tree removal companies, generator and fuel companies, so that post-disaster we can run our operation and respond safely and efficiently. We've been working with Kings Point for many years now, and I've worked with some of you in the room. We are dedicated to our partnership, and as Kings Point is our top tier priorities for response during a catastrophic event. We are here for you 24/7, 365 days a year. And our local number is 813-984-2700, and a live person always answers that line. If you have any questions or need anything, come visit me at the table over there. We have some Paul Davis marketing material and some little tchotchke items. So thank you so much for having us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Again, resources galore. So before I introduce Brian with USI Insurance, I just want to let you know he's going to be discussing this fantastic book that they put together, the Disaster Planning book. You'll notice that the 4 vendors that just spoke are in this book, and they're assigned generally to sections of the property based on the associations and unit counts, so you'll see that information in there. And one other vendor that we have an agreement with is Brown's Tree Service, who does the bulk servicing on the palm and hardwood trees. They are lined up and ready for post-storm cleanup if there are trees down on the properties or on the buildings, so they'll be able to respond quickly to that. So again, I would like to introduce Brian Burns with USI Insurance.
Good morning. Thank you, Keith. As Keith mentioned, I'm Brian Burns, Senior Vice President with USI Insurance Services. We are your insurance broker for the community. So it's our job to communicate and coordinate with our carriers and help facilitate throughout the year on a number of insurance items and claims. I've been in the business for over 20 years, and if someone would have asked me 20 years ago when I thought about climate change, I probably would have laughed them off or shrugged my shoulder. I have a completely different response to that today. We are seeing more frequent storm activity than we've ever seen on record. We are seeing more aggressive storm activity than we've ever seen on record. For those of you that watched the news last night, there's 58 wildfires right now burning out west due to drought and lack of water out there in the current temperatures. And so, say what you want, political views aside, Mother Nature is not very happy right now. And so the things that we're talking about today are very salient. You're going to hear it from me as well as far as preparedness and having a plan. The one thing that we're lucky about with hurricanes and that you don't have with earthquakes and you don't have with tornadoes is we have time and we have the ability to prepare. And that's why all these great volunteers today and people are here to help you guys. So with that said, we've got 2 documents I want to review with you guys. We passed these out up front. This is a kind of a one-stop shop disaster preparedness guide for you guys. There's a lot of helpful information in here. Local contact, emergency numbers, the notification, text notification for Hillsborough County is in here, shelter forms, a good handy checklist for before, during, after the storm, contact information for some of the restoration partners that already spoke. And so this is a good place to start. Again, I'll say it again, have a plan. Everybody's situation is different. You may have friends in Orlando. You may have a church that you're a part of that has an evacuation situation. You may have friends just within your particular community, and one may have a generator. Whatever your situation is, we just need to get some sort of plan together so we're not making decisions at the last minute. The other document, which Matt, if you'll jump to the next slide, we represent the community as an advocate for the master policy, but there's 2 important components of insurance for a community. One is the master policy that you pay for a portion of your dues on a monthly basis. And the other important component is your individual insurance. So the insurance in the name of Brian Burns, the insurance in the name of Jane Doe. And so last fall, we did a town hall, which obviously we were still under some COVID constraints, and so we didn't have as much participation as we have here. But we've created a custom Kings Point Unit Owners Guidebook. And this goes into a lot of the unique circumstances around individual condominium insurance and what you do insure for and what you don't insure for. Whose responsibility is it in event of a water damage claim? They give a water damage claim scenario. There's charts in here which go to explain who insures what, because it's not just the master policy that is an important part of the insurance program. Your individual policies come together like a piece of a puzzle for the insurance program for yourself and for the community. And so a couple months ago, we sent out an important document called the Loss Assessment Notice, which is an important coverage that I can talk to you about. There's things called loss of use to help pay for other housing or other residency if your home is damaged. You obviously need to have building coverage and contents coverage. And so while we don't handle those policies for you, we want to be your advocate for that, because we're the advocate for Kings Point, we're the advocate for your community. So please consider me and my team. My partner's Adam Lopatin, his contact information is in there as well. Consider us a resource and a consultant for you on those coverages as well. I've spent 8 of the last 9 weeks here actively involved in many board meetings, fielding many calls from individuals and talking to them. All really great people, by the way. I've heard some really cool stories about how people ended up here and just really neat getting to know the community. But we're here to help you guys. And so we understand that a lot of you are from up north. Perhaps you're not as savvy with condo insurance or condo living. And so consider us a resource. I'll be here at the booth here after the expo. I have a whole stack of these unit owner guidebooks to hand out, as well as my card. And here to help you or your neighbors or anybody that may have any questions at all regarding not only the master policy, but your individual insurance. And I think that's all I got. Again, just have a plan. We're blessed to be able to have time. Bob had mentioned in his presentation that it was 100 years ago since we had a last storm. In fact, I live very near where that storm hit, near Paso Grill. And Heritage Insurance, who's your property carrier, is going to come up next. And they'll tell you when they model accounts, which means they go in and they have a computer software where they kind of gauge where storms are going to hit and how much they should charge. The rule of thumb that they use is the 100-year storm, because that storm comes every 100 years. And we're kind of at that mark. I don't want to talk about be a doomsday talker here, but it's just important to realize where we are in the big scheme of things. So thank you all for being here. You're part of a great community and great volunteerism, and we look forward to working with you. Thanks. Up next, Heritage Insurance, who's our partner on the property insurance. We have Joe Powers, who's the head of claims, is going to talk a little bit about their response in the event of a storm. They have an entire response team that'll be here on site. I don't want to steal his thunder, but here's Joe. Thanks.
Hey, good morning, everyone. As Brian said, my name is Joe Powers. I'm the AVP of Commercial Claims at Heritage. And when I listen to the when I hear everybody talking about planning, I'm a sports guy, and I can't help but think of the statement that I believe it was Mike Tyson who said, "Everybody has a plan until I hit them." So, with that being said, I don't think they knew what was coming. The advantage we have is with modern weather data and all the news, and we know pretty much where that storm is coming in. So our goal is to be up and running for you, even if it comes into our headquarters in Pinellas County the next day. We had a meeting earlier, a month and a half or so ago, where we've committed to, if you have an event here and there is power and there is a building, I will bring in my examiners to have like an area, a triage center to help you guys be on site for you and guide you through the claims process. All the vendors that were up here, I'm pretty familiar with. I've been in this business for a long time, from the start of being an adjuster out in the field to an examiner. So I know how everything pretty much works, and our goal is to make it easy, not hard. You've just suffered a catastrophic event, so we want to work with your vendors that you have and that you've been working with on everyday losses throughout the year. In the event you have something catastrophic, we'll work with those vendors to put you back the way you were prior to the storm. So that is really all I have. Insurance is pretty boring. I'm a homeowner. I have never read my policy. So the important thing is that you have it in the event you do have something, and we can help facilitate putting you guys back together. And that's all I got. Stop by. We have a lot of little tchotchkes. I was told to bring lots of tchotchkes. So, boxes and boxes. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks a lot to everybody. We're going to have the Master Association come up, and Shauna Delaria. Okay, there she is. Okay.
Good morning. All right, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Master Association's role in disaster planning for the community, and I promise it will be brief. I will keep it less than 3 minutes. If you could go to the next slide for me, please. As we all know, preparation is the key, and there are a few really important things that the Master has already done just to make sure that we are prepared. One of the things is these designated staging areas. They are for each section in the community, so the landscapers and vendors that are coming in to help you with cleanup, they have a place to stage their equipment, excuse me, and a place to store the debris. So those are designated ahead of time and ready. And then as far as communication, which is super important, as Mike mentioned with the radio program, the Master is a part of that, so we'll be able to stay in communication even if the cell lines go down. Next slide, please. And then this is probably the most important thing that we are in charge of, which is clearing the roads, so we can make sure the emergency vehicles get in, and also the vendors coming in to help the various associations can get in. We have signed agreements with Brightview. It's really great. We are priority client number 1, so in the event of a storm, they're already on standby. Excuse me. And Kings Point is the first place they will come. So they will go out, evaluate the damage, send crews in to clean up. Excuse me. And then they will also help us with any potential insurance claims for damage by documenting the damage and getting all that ready for us to turn over to our insurance company. And then we have the same type of agreement with Global Engineering, who handles our drainage structures. They also look after our bridges, so the same thing, they'll come in right away after the storm is over. If there's any flooding issues, they'll take care of it. They'll inspect the bridges to make sure that there's no damage there and they're safe to drive on. And that is really the main part of what we do. Our biggest role here is getting the roads cleared so that people can come in and get everything in the community all taken care of and cleaned up. And once there's a watch in place, we'll also try to mitigate the damage by picking up any fallen branches, any large pieces of debris, making sure all that's put up and taken care of. And then with our irrigation crew, we also have a plan in place to protect your assets. So the crew will go around and make sure everything is all shut down. Excuse me. So the pumps and controllers, we don't have to worry about any issues with electrical surges. And that's all we do. So thank you very much.
Now we have security for Kings Point, which is Peter John Dorsey. He's the Chief of Security for Kings Point. Thank you.
Good morning. I don't have an inside voice. I'm retired Chief Boston Mate. It is my honor to be in front of you today. Some of you have not met me yet, and I'll use this because now y'all can probably hear me. And I'm 6'6", so I'll bring this up a little bit. All right, welcome. Look around this room. A lot of planning went into this to get everybody here to put out this information. There's a lot of good information here. Would you guys agree to that? Seriously. They're here for you. They're here for your neighbors that are not here. Please. Word of mouth is good. Not everybody could be here today. Please, please, please get the word out. Now, as your security chief, everything in Kings Point and all 113 communities, myself and my 36 members of my team, that's what we're here for. Okay? The gate security team. For Elsa, we just dodged a little Mike Tyson analogy. You know, everything's good until we get hit. We could have been hit, but we really weren't. That should have been our wake-up call, guys. Okay, please, please. All the information is right here for you. Do not leave here and have any questions that are not answered. Okay. Prior to Elsa, and this was over the 4th of July weekend, we had a nice weekend, I started sending out advisories as they were coming out from the Hurricane Center to most of the members up here, so we can know what's going on. Everybody can start talking to the teams. We have a lot of great communication between us up here, okay? Once we decided to, what happened? The clubs closed down, the communication went out. Remember, the buildings here, the North Club, South Club, 2020 building, what happened? They all shut down. Why? They're not hurricane rated. We have 177 staff members here, besides 113 homes and over 5,000 houses in here, okay? We all left. Prior to us opening up, what did we do? We walked around, made sure everything was good to go before we can allow you guys to come back in here. Okay, I will be very brief because this has been a long lecture, and all the good information is sitting right here and here. Okay, I will also be in here if you have any questions regarding security. I'd be more than happy to say hello to you. I've been here a little bit over a year, and it has been my honor to serve and work with my team helping you guys out. Okay, so that's what we're here for. All right, but like everybody else, 35 miles, we're going to shut it down. We're going to shut down both guardhouses, okay, the main gate and the south gate, okay, until it's safe to reopen. We've gone out. The morning after Elsa, prior to us opening back up about 11 o'clock, I was on the roads patrolling to make sure everything was good in all areas, all right? So that's what we do. I am here for you. I am your security chief. It's a pleasure to stand up and say hello to you. Some of you didn't know who I was. You see me walking around here, and even though I'm in big boy clothes today, I'm usually not dressed up like this. So, thank you. Thank you for being here. It meant a lot. There's a lot of work went into this, and we're glad that you all took the time to come out here. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, now I know you all want to know, there's only one more speaker left. Kings Point Radio Club, and Joe Flax, president. No pressure, Joe. No pressure.
It's going to be quick. Thank you very much. I'm Joe Flack of the Kings Point Amateur Radio Club. And we put together something you can use after you lose all communications. We will be on the network the day after. We've created the Disaster Radio Net. Use a low-cost, inexpensive, no license radio. For $15, you can be on the air after the storm. I've been volunteer in 3 storms. In every storm, we lost the internet, the cell phones, and the landlines. This will allow you to communicate after the storm. We have approximately 18 high-power amateur stations that we can contact you. You can contact us. We can get a hold of any emergency. We can get a hold of the emergency squad, and this will get you out of a pickle. So please come over, and I'll give you a brochure and explain how this works. We have a practice net every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, and it's very easy to use. It's got one button. So thank you. Please come over. We're right here.
Okay, that concludes my portion of this, so I'm going to turn it back over to Liz, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. One of the things we've heard from many of our speakers is you all, excuse me, each person has to make their own preparation for their own safety prior to a major storm. But there's also another phase that is important, and the leadership team who put all of this together felt it was important to get some additional information out to associations. Matt? Oh, okay. So in order to get some information out to all of you, we put together a packet, excuse me, and this packet will come to you via email to all board members at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Keith promised. So it will be coming out to you. And it's important to have some kind of a plan in each association. And it depends on your association how that plan or a team of responders will work. Every association is different. And some folks have plans, some do not, and that's totally up to each of the associations. But when you build a plan, it can be done in 3 major steps. Number 1 is the most important. And even if you decide you don't need a plan in your association, please identify a contact person, a point of contact. Often it's the president, sometimes it's not. You know, during the summer, lots of folks are gone, so that's an important piece. And a resident contact form. Those forms are specific to your association. First Service has one, and that's a general, name, rank, and serial number. But you may, in your association, as we do in mine, have some special pieces of information we want to know about our residents. Are you going to go? Are you going to stay? Etc., etc. In the packet, you will see a form that's a sample template that you can modify to meet your own needs, should you desire to. And creating an emergency team, we feel that, that's something that can be very helpful, and you've heard it here today several times. You get a plan in place, then you're in far better shape because a plan in place saves lives. Okay, last. First of all, I also want to send out a huge thank you to each and every vendor who has presented to us today. And I know all of you feel a little bit better knowing that not only you've taken care of yourself, but there are these services that are out and about, and you know what they're going to do. Yes, you couldn't clap hard enough. And you know what? We live in the best community anywhere. And I think this is very obvious today. The presenters put a bit of levity into the presentation, which took a little bit of the humdrum out of presentations. But you need to remember, they put levity in the presentation, but this is serious business. So, with that, I would like to thank all of you for attending. The coffee and refreshments are still there, and please take the time to stop and see each of these vendors, and yes, they have tchotchkes. Thank you.